I'm Jim Check. You're watching Kelowna Now with me, Kent Mulgat.
Just filling in.
Filling in for Ian Burns today. He's got a migraine, so that's why we're late as well. And but we've both got our glasses on, so we'll see if we can see clearly or if we're as blind as mice. Here we go. Kicking it off. Justin Trudeau held that summit in Toronto there, or was it Ottawa? Anyway, in Ontario. How's that? He held it in Ontario.
It was for sure in Ontario.
But one of the Benjamin Bergen of the Council of Canadian Innovators said Canadians are 25% poorer than Americans, 20% poorer than Australians, and we're now 20% poorer than the Danes. So we need to, in his words, we need to get our together and figure out what the world wants and sell it to them, because we're facing a lot of tariffs. We really need to figure out what the world wants, and we need to figure out a way to get it to market.
And also we have to figure out how to sell it to each other, right? And
yeah,
we are
breaking those tariffs.
We're seeing a lot of movement.
Borders.
The inter-provincial trade barriers.
Yeah.
Some people are saying within 30 days. Yeah, probably not going to see that. But.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And the big one that Trump announced today, tariffs on, and you can just substitute the word tariffs for tax. Tariffs on steel and aluminum. 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum coming into the United States of America. And Canada, the biggest supplier, you can see there for Canada, sends $11.2 billion worth of steel across the border and $9.5 billion of aluminum across that's a tough word to say.
And with that announcement, clear proof what a promise from Donald Trump means, the value that you can put in that.
Well, for sure, because there is a USMCA that I'm surprised that
it violates
that. They haven't. It violates the USMCA that's been agreed to, and there is a lot of labor unions now reaching out and says we agreed to this. This was deals that were made. You changing these deals is goes against all those trade agreements.
It also violates this promise he made of this 30-day reprieve. Boom, out the window.
Yeah, there you go.
So Canada's output of
we're the largest.
Canada's exports to the U.S. It leads the world in how much steel and aluminum that we send to the U.S. Right?
Correct. If you can look at the chart right there in front of you, there you can see that we are the leading, and a lot of that comes out of Ontario for sure. So Doug Ford, lots to say on that today. So it's scary times. In the Liberal leadership race.
Can I just bounce back to that for a minute?
Because you can do whatever you want.
Because I was listening to Doug Ford on the subject of the inter-provincial trade barriers. And he was just riffing. And he said, oh, yeah, cows in Newfoundland, that there'll be people wanting to protect that. And then he said, oh, yeah, in BC, protecting its wine. He said, and I'm going, whoa, it's about pulled over. No, the wine industry in BC has been calling to take down all of the trade barriers, not to keep any protectionism in place. So Doug Ford is ill-informed.
And full disclosure, you are involved with a local winery, so you would know that.
I would know that.
There you go.
And now there is a pathway to legally sell into Alberta, but it's complicated and awkward, and I doubt most wineries are even going to follow it. They'll keep doing what a lot of them have been doing, which is just go ahead and sell directly to people and let the chips fall where they may.
In the middle of all this, we have a Liberal leadership race, and nobody dropped in this round. Jamie Baptiste dropped in the first when he had to cough up the $50,000 non-refundable portion. So everybody ponied up the cash for this next round here. So everybody's in.
I think we all know where this is going, though.
The polls say so. But they all seem to be wanting to put their money up.
It's supposed to be a cliffhanger. It's going to be it doesn't look like it's Carney's. Is there anyone that's a real threat to Carney?
Chrystia Freeland.
Still? What is she at?
6-7%. So Freeland actually on her website now is starting to sound a lot like Pierre Poilievre. If you see some of her platform stuff there, she wants to make Canada's tax environment more appealing, attract more investment, create more jobs. And she's going to do the accelerated investment incentive, removing the 30% rule for pension funds. She's going to cut red tape, fast track 10 major job creating projects each year. And at least 3 of these projects will be in critical minerals. This is the big one, grow the Canadian Armed Forces to a total of 125,000 members. Currently it's around 55,000 members. They can't get anybody to sign up. But this might work. 50% higher wages for regular force members. I mean,
Okay,
that's what we've been saying. We're underpaying them.
so she lays out this platform. Does it give her a bounce? And then she needs a lot
I
more
don't
than
know.
6%.
Yeah, so better medical, dental care, faster recruitment strategies, and an end to home veteran homelessness. I mean, that should never happen. Yeah, so we'll see if that things, but I mean, she's not getting the airtime that Mark Carney is getting from all the media outlets, for sure. Like, she's not getting to the microphone. She is going to host a town hall here right away. Ruby Dalla has been hosting town halls, but Chrystia Freeland is definitely, she's also been subject to the Chinese interference in her election.
Are you suggesting that the holders of the microphone are saying, no, we don't want to hear from you?
Well, it just shows
Carney.
that she's not getting any airtime.
Right. Or maybe she's not seeking it enough.
Okay. Pierre Poilievre also responding out there saying that we need a permanent military base in Iqaluit. He says we need 2 big icebreakers and we need to start spending money there. And he will cut foreign aid to invest in our military. I do believe we need to invest in our military. It's been let go for a long time.
You know, there is a portion of Poilievre support that is kind of extreme. Some of these things sound like an appeasement to the most extreme right of the people who would lean towards voting for him. You know, saying things like cutting foreign aid. I mean, that's what I mean. Trump has just cut, sending no aid to Africa.
We're going to talk about aid here in a second. Here.
All right, am I getting ahead of the game?
But
doesn't it, some of this sounds like, you know, none of these things sound too odious, but you know, it does sound a little bit like of an appeasement to those people. Some people in Canada are kind of going, "Go Trump, go!" right now, amazingly. And isn't it appeasement to that? I don't know.
There could be perhaps a lot of frustration with the current government that would cause people to do that. I can't fathom it myself, but I do believe that there is a lot of frustration. I think somebody just put out a thing that says 40%. I think it's Rupa Sharma, who does work for the National Post, said that 40% of young people now would rather join the United States. So.
I posted something on my own Facebook, and that a little bit on the topic, and someone I worked with many years ago then chirped in, saying he backed what Trump was doing 100%, and then a big brouhaha. I ended up just taking down the post.
There you go.
But there is that segment out there.
I imagine there is. One of the things with what the icebreakers that makes a lot of sense, though, is that we have that port in Churchill, and you know, I mean, there is the Russians are very active in the Arctic. And Canada is not. We've been talking about getting icebreakers for a long time. They've got nuclear-powered icebreakers, and it's a due time. I mean, that is our largest unprotected border that Canada has. That actually has a lot of countries on the other side of that. And China, I understand, has bought a mine in the northmost part of Canada there that isn't accessible by land, only by port. And they bought that old mine that has one of the few seaports that is available in the summertime.
So sovereignty in this part of the world is pretty murky, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend to understand it. But I guess the idea is get active to demonstrate that it's yours.
Well, I mean, if it's ours, we should be at least patrolling it.
I suppose.
Pipelines. And again, so now it seems like there is more support for an east-west pipeline that was kiboshed back by the Liberal government and Quebec, for that matter. And even right now, the Premier of Quebec is saying that he's not much interested in hydrocarbons flowing into the east, but Churchill might be the way to get it. So, but there is more support for the pipelines now to go east-west, and the Northern Gateway pipeline, obviously, that another one that was kiboshed by the Liberals. Turns out we might need those.
Well, yes.
There you go. Canadian aid workers warn catastrophic, this is what we're talking about, U.S. aid halts, puts Ottawa projects in limbo. So Canadian aid workers have asked the federal government to fill the gaps opened up by the President Donald Trump's decision to wind down the U.S. agency. The head of the group, Cooperation Canada, said the effect of the changes in the U.S. is catastrophic. It forces Canadians to think about what kind of country we should be.
Right.
And I guess the question is for us to fill, like the coffers of what the Americans are pulling out. I don't know if we even have.
Probably can't do that, but it would. But at the same time, did you not mention just a few items ago that Polyev is talking about
Icebreakers and pulling aid.
pulling back on aid right at a time when aid might be more important?
I think
than
one of
it
the
has
things
been
that
for a
we,
long
that we
time.
should be looking at those, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet right now, especially on Canada, and that they're pulling up the Canadian website and finding out all these places we're spending money. Maybe there should be more oversight on where dollars are spent, and maybe we can focus that aid to where it needs to go as opposed to places that it shouldn't go.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense. The Canadian ambassador said Donald Trump's threats to take over Greenland violate international law. I mean, Donald Trump seems to want to fill the courtrooms. So he's been stopped, and that's what I say to the Canadians is take him to court over the USMCA, because he's been stopped on a lot of things in the US that he's done. The courts are stopping him in some of the firings, stopping him on some of the deportations and stuff like that. Donald Trump would just tie him up in court because we do have a signed USMCA.
He seems to like going to court. Whenever he does, his poll numbers go up.
He's a bully, and the world's biggest bully, and he's good at it. And,
can I editorialize right now?
Sure, you go ahead.
This whole thing with the United States, it's frightening. It's serious, but at the same time, it's really sad, because I've always thought, even though I feel always a little bit of a competitive rivalry with the United States, they have always been our ally and our closest neighbor and our friend. And
we've stood shoulder to shoulder with them in many a skirmish.
That is so gone right now. In fact, there's more key hostility coming from the United States right now than any country in the world.
But I also don't think there was the former Bank of Canada governor on just recently. He said, listen, all these things amount to is tax. Some of these things, like the aluminum tax and the steel tax, will amount to tax. What he says where we need to be very, very cautious is because this doesn't really impact the Canadian consumer on large, but where it does impact the Canadian consumer on large is when we start adding our taxes or tariffs on. And he said, so we have to be very careful, and it has to be very targeted.
Tariffs like this do probably require a response, and the combination of the bunch of them could easily force us into a recession, which does affect everybody. And when we interviewed the owners of the bean scene locally, representing coffee shops and restaurants. Any kind of recession means fewer people going into the coffee shop. And so the whole thing goes on a bad cycle.
So there is a really good place to get some clarity. Trump was speaking with the Japanese prime minister, and they inked that $1 trillion deal. That should have been our deal, by the way, because the Japanese came begging for LNG a couple of years ago. We said no, that there is no business case for that. Turns out there is. But what he said there is that he's going to use tariffs like a tax, and that's how he's going to equalize things. And that's what he said to the Japanese prime minister, to expect them as more of a tax, and it's kind of an equalization thing. So I think that's what Canada can more expect is kind of like a tax. And he's trying to use the taxes that he generates from it to ease the taxes on his people.
I don't think that he's going to ultimately find that increasing tariffs makes his country.
It hurts both.
That's
both nations, for sure.
How it goes. But I know you like to focus on the dollars and cents of it all, but again, Trump has reaffirmed this 51st state nonsense.
Yeah, I think
he's
just toying. He's just poking the bear. I mean, there's no way that's going to happen. But it definitely gets it. But the Liberals are playing it up for sure, because it definitely has helped their party.
Liberals are playing. So I shouldn't be concerned when he says that over. I have a hard time keeping track of what is real from Trump and what I'm supposed to just say he's joking about, because he keeps saying, no, I'm not joking.
Yeah, no, I know. I get it. And that's what he does. And then there was an article or an interview on Fox with them, and they were talking about it, how they're just, they have a couple of consultants or whatever, experts on there, saying that he's just toying with Canada, and it's part of his negotiation tactics. You can go watch that. Doug Ford, though, spending some money on the Super Bowl. We're going to play this clip here promoting Canada to the Americans.
Ontario is your third largest trading partner and the #1 export destination for 17 states. Our long-standing economic partnership keeps millions of Americans working. In a changing world, it's time to bring jobs back home and build together. More workers, more trade, more prosperity, more security. For generations, this ally to the north has been here. And for generations more, we'll still be here, right by your side.
David Eby also with an impassioned plea to the Americans when he opened up the Invictus Games there, and he was, saying how we've been standing shoulder to shoulder with the Americans whenever they needed us. And I think, and Daniel Smith has also been doing that kind of stuff. I listened to Jim Farley, CEO of Ford, this morning, and he's saying as well that it would hurt both sides of the border, and Ford gets a lot of their parts out of Canada and a lot of the parts out of Mexico, where our economies are so intertwined. It would be really tough for Donald Trump to do what he's threatening to do. So I think calmer heads should prevail. We take him to court with that USMCA. I think that's where we start. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, we need to get someone who really knows about it here. But I just can't imagine how these 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum, when you look at what happens with a vehicle manufactured in that part of our continent, there's tickety-tack back and forth across the border,
Right.
and there'll be all these tariffs applied. What's that going to do to the cost of a vehicle? Or are the American people on the American side going to suddenly divert their source of aluminum and steel to all American sources? I don't think that's possible.
Correct. Look at the amount of steel that we provide in aluminum. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big mess.
So that's what I mean. So I think a lot of it is jockeying. But I think one thing is clear. We definitely need a clear leader to stand up. We need to elect this liberal leader. Step one, need to recall Parliament and then decide if we have an election
It's
so that
all
we have
going to happen
a leader.
within a few months, no matter what. Whether it's, whether it gets, forced to happen within the next, month, or if it's 3 months, it's going to change.
Jagmeet Singh just came out and said that he would prolong the government for a couple months so that he can get some liberals bills passed. So that's interesting as well.
Yeah.
Jagmeet says something different every day. We just don't know what he says.
You've got to
the
keep
next
checking.
Blacklocks, Holly Dillon's team out there with a story saying the federal agency reduced to hiring a Washington lobbyist at $85,000 US a month. What is that, like 150 grand Canadian? It's probably more like 120 for outreach to government officials. And that's because they went down there and they just can't seem to get access to people. And so that's what I mean. We need a clear leader. Canadians are not being taken serious right now by the Trump administration. We definitely need some strength.
So we just hired an American to lobby for us, but while Canadians are being asked, don't buy American.
Yeah.
But maybe they strategically.
You're seeing the problem there?
Maybe they strategically needed to in this particular case.
Well, I mean, the lobby group in the United States is crazy, right? Like the amount of money that's spent in lobbying. And I mean, these are some of the things that we're trying to clear up here in Canada, too.
Yeah.
Even locally in Kelowna, we have, this mayor has put forward that lobbyists have to declare themselves at least, right?
I don't know. It seems like most leaders, and I know that we're left with kind of a lame duck prime minister for the moment, but at least his statements and the statements of the people who would presume to replace him within the Liberal Party and from Poilievre and from the premiers, it's all been pretty tough. I don't think we're looking weak.
Well,
a little bit uncertain because of the whole who's going to run this country. We're likely to see the prime ministership change twice in the next.
Could be 3 times.
3 times? Could
be. Trudeau, Carney.
Well, Trudeau doesn't count as a change.
Well, he hasn't left yet. He's technically only kind of resigned.
So let's say, never mind.
Yeah,
a couple times.
3 times. Anybody want to vote on that? 2 or 3 times? It's actually 3. It's 3 for sure. 3. Let's hope it's 3. Anyway, and on to the markets. Kent's favorite thing here. On to the markets. Gold breaks the $2,900 mark this morning in US dollars, so that's close to like, $1 million Canadian.
Doesn't gold go up when uncertainty goes up?
Right, the tariffs obviously adding more fuel to this. Yeah, no, so I think it's about like just over like 4,100 Canadian. So yeah, so gold looks like it wants to go here. Bitcoin.
And you know what investors know? You say, so gold's gone up, so investors are going to buy gold now. You tell me what's going down, that's what I'll put my money on.
Sure.
Buy low.
Canadian dollar. You should buy a lot of Canadian dollars. It's going down. Crypto still kind of hanging around that $97,000-$100,000 mark. So, and then Canadian dollar. There you go. Canadian dollar. There's a chart for you. You want to put the Canadian dollar chart up there?
I don't want to look.
Rommel. There you go. There you go. Something going down. You can buy that if you're looking for something that's going down. This is kind of cool in our AI segment. We're trying to get through this fast this morning. Again, Ian off with a migraine. AI segment. The young man won this challenge here, and he was able to use AI to read 2,000-year-old scrolls that were burnt.
Wow.
He was able to use like computer program, and he was actually reading. Like at first he got like there's a really good YouTube video on it. He got like 3 or 4 letters, or one word he got figured out was purple. And then since then they've been able to read volumes of it. So it's just pretty impressive. They're reading it from a burnt scroll, and there's a lot of these scrolls out there. And this young man that won the Vazusis Challenge or whatever they call it, he's actually on the Doge team with the one that I knew you were going to say that is actually going through all the books.
You knew I was
They're
gonna
using
say.
a lot of AI in there to kind of like sift through all that stuff too. Again, in AI, it takes over the Super Bowl with 2025 ads. Lots of stuff going on in AI in the Super Bowl. We won't get to too much of it, but Justin Trudeau on his farewell tour. He's off in Paris right now. He met with Emmanuel Macron, and we got a little clip here to play. That was Justin Trudeau's tweet and his video there. He's there. And then we have a little speech from Justin there in France as well. There we go.
We cannot let AI pollute social media with empty slop and cunning disinformation. We cannot let it grow even more the rifts within us, rifts that are already so deep between the haves, the have-nots, and the have-yachts. We cannot let it drive our citizens further towards cynicism, populism, hopelessness, and hatred. AI could unleash the potential of every human being to contribute, to create, to positively impact the world around us, but only if we choose to shape it that way. We, leaders in this room and around the world, have a choice to make. And that choice is being made now. Not 5 years ago, not 5 years from now. Now. If we don't meet this moment, our children, our grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will judge us harshly for it.
So it's fitting that he's in Europe because
We cannot let
Europe is calling for more regulation for AI, as is Justin Trudeau calling for more regulation in AI. But little in contribution for AI. Most of that contribution in AI is happening in the United States of America and China and other places in the world. Like, we have little that we're doing other than we need to innovate before we regulate, I believe. But I also believe that AI could be the catalyst for abundance for all.
I don't know. Have you no worries about it?
Of course there's worries.
We talk about how we shape it. Are we really going to be able to shape it, or will it shape itself? You know, it is.
So all the people calling for like slow down, we need to regulate it. And that.
Yes.
The Chinese will not slow down. The Russians will not slow down. We don't have much choice.
That may be true.
So, you know, if we sit on our hands and regulate, it'll be like the same thing as our energy right now.
So hurry up and regulate?
Innovate and bring regulation along with it at the same time, but don't regulate before we innovate. Like, where's the innovation in Canada with AI? You show it to me. Trump administration, and this is the one that he's halting all the EV charging program that, according to this article, that benefited Tesla. So the supercharger network that Tesla's built out is the one that most of the auto manufacturers have adopted already. So again, this is what I would look at as a wasteful program if just build out the current program that everybody is actually starting to use anyway. Ford and GM and all those people are now using the NACS charging system. So this is like a duplication, like, you know, you've been to small towns.
So
you see these secondary chargers, right? Like
so this is something you know about, Jim. So what is this $5 billion EV charging program?
So that was a Biden administration program where they were building out, just like you see here, you have these
Right.
charging systems that aren't Tesla ones, but they're like, like even flow and different ones out there. And then it's kind of a duplication. So, and one of the,
So it's financial assistance for
to build out this
for more
network.
of them to be built,
Correct.
so that people can have access to them in more locations.
And
Okay.
And then one of the problems that was highlighted by Ford, and he was the first one to join the Tesla supercharging system. He said that, the Tesla ones are on the, like in really good prime spots, where he had a really tough time when he was driving his F-150 Lightning, even finding these secondary spots.
Right.
And then lots of times they had like a really high rate of failure, and then it were complicated to use. And you use the Tesla supercharger, you walk in, you plug it in, and that's it. There's nothing, right?
Right.
Whereas these secondary ones, you typically putting in a credit card. Lots of times they don't work.
Lots of yada yada.
Yeah, and this is the right cord and all that stuff. So like, I would say that that's probably a good program to kind of just invest into the one charging system. No different than Betamax and VHS, right? Like when they went one way, then just go that way.
Right.
But EVs doing well in the United States even. And in 2024, EVs grew to about 8% of cars and are expected to reach 10 this year. So they are still selling. Globally, though, way higher, 21%. China, over 50%. I think Denmark just reported, Denmark or Norway at 100%.
Norway is super
100%.
high.
Norway, 100%.
But it's funny. When I run into people who are really kind of, electric cars, you can't have them in Alberta. I've heard, right? It's too cold. And yet
Yeah,
Norway,
you see them there.
I do see them there. Plus, Norway is just killing it with EV.
I hear it's summer there all the time.
Yeah.
In Norway.
It's not cold there at all.
No, they work. You drive one, I drive one.
But okay, we're in a cold snap now, and it's like, whoa, it does have a significant impact in the range, etc. But they still work. They work just fine.
Yeah, Rivian. I just made an announcement that they'll now sell those electric vans to anybody who wants one. I mean, Amazon made huge purchases of electric vans. Tony Seba from Rethink X has said that people will have no choice but to buy an electric van because it will last 4 times larger than gasoline
Hang
counterparts.
on. Your first line was they'll now sell them to anyone who wants them. Were they saying no, you can't have
Well,
them?
they had a massive contract with Amazon that they had to fulfill.
Fill first, and now it's
Correct.
like it's open
Amazon had
season.
invested
I
in
can
them,
get
so-
myself a Rivian van tomorrow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a market that Rivian is probably going to do really well in, because that's not a market that Tesla or a lot of the other manufacturers. I think Ford has some stuff in there in that area.
Right. So like you could load that up with, say, dishwashers, right, and ship them around.
Well, everything.
Whereas
like delivery, like plumbers,
the
whatever.
Tesla just looks like a dishwasher. The Cybertruck.
And we brought the comic relief here today. You're funnier than Ian, for sure.
Stainless steel dishwasher. That's what it looks like when I see that going by.
Which one? The Tesla?
The
Are you talking about the Cybertruck?
the
Or what are you
Cybertruck?
talking
To me,
about?
it looks like a stainless
okay,
steel
yeah.
dishwasher.
To me, it looks like a really low budget PBS old sci-fi movie.
Yeah, something.
Do you remember that? The old sci-fi movies that were really low
Although
budget?
didn't I see a video? You can like shoot bullets at that thing and they'll bounce
Yep.
off. So
All the police forces want them now.
Mhm.
Who wouldn't, right? Tesla. EVs now last 204,000 miles on an average outpace. What is that in kilometers? 204 is about 350, right? Times 1.6. Outpacing all brands. And yeah, so now Tesla, and we got a clip here to play too. That's probably good, wrong. I'm going to play their ad there, but the new study just confirmed Tesla's would already know. EVs don't just last, they dominate. 204,000 miles. This is in kilometers, it'd be about 350. The average Tesla lifespan crushes every other brand, no matter the powertrain. And there's like very little maintenance on these things. So
you got 95% or something fewer parts, right?
moving parts. Yeah.
And when they do die, what is finally, if you finally wear out your Tesla, I wonder what is the final straw, I wonder, at the end.
People's dislike for Elon's tweets.
Probably. But one more thing on this topic of electric cars. I did get into a social media debate, someone saying that, oh, these cars are always lighting on fire.
What?
Yeah, so I looked it up, and it turns out that this is a while back. My vague memory is that they do actually sometimes light on fire, but about 25% as frequently as a
So gas
gas-powered
cars 3
vehicle.
times as much, basically.
But guess what? The vehicles that actually do blow up or light on fire more than both of those are the hybrids.
Yeah.
Because now you got two different things to go wrong.
So a lot of people will tell you, you didn't hear this from me. A lot of people will tell you that
You're saying it, Jim.
the hybrids are the best of both worlds, and then there'll be people that on the other side of that say they actually the worst of both worlds because you're paying for 2 systems, lugging around a battery when you're running on gas and lugging around an engine when you're using electricity.
The worst thing about your electric vehicle is just hauling its own weight up the hill. You don't want to add a gas-burning engine to your load.
Some people really like it though. Like there's a
Right.
local politician here just loves their hybrid. So people just love it. They definitely have that security feeling, right? So
Right.
they're worried they're going to get stuck on the side of the road. And if any of you are out there are feeling less than Canadian, this little clip here, this meme that we've got here to show you, should make you feel proud to be a Canadian, if nothing else. Nothing like the cold north to show you something like this.
Yay.
I'll play this clip here, full screen.
Using the code INSIDER at awakeningfoundation.com.
Holy mackerel. Wow. Wow.
Now, if that doesn't make you proud to be Canadian, I don't know what else will. If you've
Yeah.
lived up in the Great White North, as I have, what you
Wow.
find at a Tim Hortons is a moose on the loose.
You know, I know moose are huge, but you know, you got to see one once in a while to remind yourself. That is a
Yeah,
beast.
it is. I remember when I was living up in the north, and the people that have car accidents with moose, usually when you hit a deer, you get a fender bender, right? You hit a
Right.
moose, and lots of times you don't live.
I had a
Right.
close encounter with a moose when I was just a little kid. And you know, you remember something and it kind of blows up in your mind and it seemed like a giant. But I guess maybe, look, that is a giant.
Did you see Dudley Do-Right in there anyway?
I did not.
What's the little Beavers guy's name? Can't remember the Beavers guy's name because it was Dudley Do-Right, the Bullwinkle the moose.
Snidely Whiplash.
No, that was the
getting my-
the arch enemy there, Snidely Whiplash. But the little beaver,
Okay.
was it Bucky the Beaver?
No.
I don't know. Maybe
No.
somebody will tell us. It was Bucky?
No.
No? Beaver. Anyway. But that's pretty cool. Ruby Dalla, the
Rocky.
Rocky.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, there you go, Rocky and Bullwinkle. Ruby Dalla, the queen of the meme in
Oh.
Canada. This is an old meme that's been used over and over and over again, and she's got Mark Carney there showing that she's going to win this thing. And, you know, she's pretty confident in that, right?
Hmm.
Anyway, if we could just skip to the last one, just to the last one of the Europeans trying to smash the bottle on the thing, we can skip. Yeah. So
Oh.
this one here, if you want to play that full screen there.
Your classic unbreakable wine bottle and the christening of a ship.
Well, they created something because it was unsafe to just break the wine bottle with your hand.
So they have and now they've got a special machine, and that won't do it, even though he's going right against a bolt of some kind with that. And now it's stuck. Come on. Bang! Now he just lost it. It's still intact.
There you go. You can stop there. So that must have been a wine from the View. This
No.
indestructible bottles.
But you know, sometimes when you're buying an expensive bottle of wine, right, in order to sort of get that price, this is inside info.
Yeah.
They just put a lot of glass on that. So when and the glass comes up inside the bottle,
Yeah.
the bottom of the bottle. So when you pick it up, it feels like $80,
Yeah.
right?
But, you know, my
So-
suggestion to the Europeans who always want to overregulate and make things overly safe, just a glove.
Yeah.
Just a glove. Just a good leather Canadian glove from the Great White North and just
But
over the
imagine,
edge.
you know, you think if they came up with a contraption like that that is
tested it?
specifically designed to break a wine bottle, that it would have done it every time. But you got to test things before you invite everybody in to watch.
It's like a clown show.
Yep, it is. And
And that's the European innovation right there, the engineering.
And speaking of clown shows, is this one over?
This clown show is over. That's it for today. Ian should be back tomorrow.
Right.
And there you go. Ken says he wants to join us every now and then because he wants to keep us more balanced. So
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes, Jim, you go on a bit of a political flourish that is not exactly, two-sided. And there's Ian just, cheering you on. So you need someone just to say, whoa, settle down.
And there you go. There you have it.
All right.
Kent Mulgat with the balance beam.
All right.
All right. Thank you for watching Kelowna Now.
We don't just report the news, we live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent.